Welcome to another edition of the Coalition 936 podcast, coming together for a better community. I am JP Heath, a youth prevention coordinator with the Coalition, primarily in tobacco prevention. We'll have an update from all things around the Coalition with our great executive director, Sharon Kruk, coming up shortly. But first, we want to start our series of interviews that highlight our wonderful board of directors. Maci Dover is the director of marketing for GVCS, the Whataburger chains here across our great Piney Woods. She's done that for 6.5 years, and she has served on our board for 4 years. I know her as the woman that signs the check, so we have to be nice to her. Maci, how are you doing? Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I'm doing good.
Good. Yeah, I've known you quite a while in a few different capacities, but today we're going to be talking about the coalition side of things, but just what fuels your motivation to be involved? Because as I said in my intro, you've been at Whataburger 6.5 years, and obviously y'all are very community-minded, but also with the board and got a great family connections across East Texas. But just what fuels that motivation to be involved?
Well, I think that Angelina County is an amazing place to live, and I think the coalition makes it an even better, safer community. And so now that I have kids and plan to raise my family here, I want to do everything I can to help the coalition continue to improve our area. So that's what really drives my motivation to be involved.
And you're a very active member, but what have been, I guess this kind of doesn't apply to the last few months. I mean, we're starting to get back to the normal swing of things, but in the grand scheme and some background, which we'll talk about later too, you were a drug-free AllStar as well. But what have been some of your favorite activities, I guess, adult Maci has taken part in?
Well, I enjoy helping plan the Drug-Free Business Partnership Luncheon. Always come to that, and then I like to help set up and tear down and plan that from the ground up. Event planning is kind of ties into my job at Whataburger. I also enjoy watching the Drug-Free All-Stars and how their year goes and how involved the kids are. And that's why I volunteer to help interview Drug-Free All-Stars for the upcoming year. And then I also donate a scholarship every year for one of the Drug-Free All-Stars when they apply for those. So I enjoy being able to give back to a drug-free all-star for their plans for college.
I think most people have an idea of what a board of directors is. Sharon, when we're on different calls outside of the board, they always compliment you all because there's such a diverse background from the business sector, from different racial backgrounds. Speak to that, how the coalition really does, and this goes to Janet Taylor, too, in a while back when the coalition was originally formed, but just how there are a lot of different types of people like you on the board.
Yes, well, the diversity is super important because in order to serve a community as a whole, you have to have representation from each area of that community. So I think Janet and now Sharon and the whole coalition staff see that the diversity is key in order to really serve the community as a whole. So I think that they just put that first and foremost. And then that way we have diversity on our board and in our committees. And I think it trickles down all the way to the Drug-Free All-Stars and all the way from the different schools and everything. We try to just make sure we have a really broad all-inclusive situation.
Mm-hmm. Your perspective is different than mine, obviously, and Sharon and the other staff. But as you see it, and you've been a part of the coalition in different ways, but what do you see as the role of the coalition in the community? Because we are different than, each nonprofit has such a great outlook, but what do you see as the coalition's fit in that?
I guess I truly feel that they are just here to support our community and make it a healthier, safer place to live. And does that answer your question?
Yeah, for sure, because that's what comes in the big picture, like this. It's tough sometimes because we're working on very big, broad items.
I think it's very, very hard when you're on the coalition and on staff to explain policy change. I mean, everybody agrees that getting drugs out of the hands of children, but I think that the way the coalition goes about it is like you said, a really broad thing. Like we do it through policy change and through, community activism and those kind of things. And I think that some people don't understand that sometimes. And then that also with the diverse board, I think the more people you have in different areas that can explain what we truly do is super helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you hit on that. That's one of the big reasons why I presented the podcast idea to Sharon, is to get our message out there, to control it. So you hit on something there. Good. But as I mentioned a little bit earlier, you have a unique perspective as a board member that's also a former drug-free All-Star. I know there are a few of y'all on the board that used to be All-Stars, but I know the structure was a tad different when you were a countywide All-Star. How does that help in your position now, having that direct hands-on experience?
Well, I learned some leadership skills, and it was probably just reiterating that importance of, what the coalition really does. I have a good understanding now, and I'm familiar with a lot of the programs from my time in the All-Stars. So that has proved helpful throughout college and then again through my professional career.
Mm-hmm. So do you have I asked you some of the favorite adult memories earlier, but do you have any favorite memories of the All-Stars? Because I know Abby, who's our drug-free All-Star coordinator now, they've changed some things up, but expanding and focusing in different areas. But what do you remember from being an All-Star just a few years ago, Maci?
My most favorite thing would probably be the volunteer events that we went to, like Recovery in the Park, and we even volunteered at they had a race out at the zoo. I forgot what it was called, but anyway, it was for ADAC. ADAC sponsored it. It was just so fun to be with everybody and be out in those settings, and you're helping, but you were still having fun. And I made some friends in the Drug Free All-Star program that I would have never met otherwise. They were from other school districts, and we became lifelong friends. We're still to this day friends. And so my fondest memory of the program as a whole is just, those friendships that I've made and meeting those people that I definitely would not have met otherwise.
That's great because, you just sat in on a lot of the interviews we just did. That's something that the past All-Stars still talk about, is how they have those friendships that still last. So it really encourages us that was still something that you found back then. But
right.
One of our big events annually, and you've mentioned this already, is the Drug-Free Business Luncheon. But as someone who has such a prominent role at Whataburger, GVCS, how vital has that alliance been? And I know this is kind of a softball question, but how vital is it to have a drug-free workplace like Whataburger does?
Well, a drug-free workplace is of utmost importance for, a magnitude of reasons. But that partnership has been helpful because anytime that I need information or support to further the goal of a drug-free, workplace and a healthy environment for my employees, the coalition has endless resources that they can help me with, from smoking cessation to truly just anything that we need on our end to help our employees. They can provide me with that. So having that resource and being so close to it is extremely helpful.
And finally, this last one is broad, and you can steer the wheel however you want to take it. But you all do so much on the board, and we value you all so much. And we do everything we can here at the coalition. But, I mean, these times are changing now. What else can we do to spread the drug-free message and not only just get the word out, but how vital not only the coalition, but that drug-free, alcohol-free for young people, that lifestyle, and, of course, tobacco-free. I'm biased because I do tobacco prevention. But what else can we do to spread that message? And what are some final thoughts for you?
Honestly, I think you're doing a fabulous job. I think continue to give the Drug-Free All-Stars all the support that they need to spread the message and the cause out in the schools, because they're, really boots on the ground in that aspect. And then also giving the board all the support and tools that they need to, further the mission in the professional groups or in the religious groups or in the, parent groups. I think that the better understanding that the board has of what we do exactly, they can further that information to the masses. And then also, I think you're doing great things with the podcast, having, monthly newsletters, having a very active role on Facebook. I think that all of those things kind of tie together as far as advertisement on just coalition being top of mind and people knowing when you say the coalition, what that means.
You're awesome. Thanks in a few ways. Thanks for what you do on the board sector, but thanks for everything at Whataburger, because y'all are so great in the community, and I love my taquitos and my sausage, egg, and cheese bobs.
Well, of course. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you having me on the podcast. I was excited.
That's Maci Dover with GVCS, a member of our board of directors. Stay tuned. More on the podcast coming up with Executive Director Sharon Kruk after this. And continuing on the podcast with our Executive Director of the Coalition, Sharon Kruk, we will spend the next few minutes giving you an update about things around, believe it or not, our pretty busy office that affect our community. Sharon, hi again.
Yes, hello. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, not hard to get in contact, but with the different busy schedules sometimes, it's unique lining up. But first off, we've had a lot going on since we talked to you the very first debut episode, but some adjustments getting back to more of a full-time office schedule. But has it been tough getting used to the new normal that we've been, I guess, getting used to for a while now?
Yeah, for sure. I think everybody in the business world, personal world, we're all just, trying to adjust and figure out our way. We are certainly lucky here at the Coalition that we have an office space that allows each of our staff members to have their own space. So we have been able to come back into the office and kind of get back into a routine. But of course, the part that's the most bothersome, I guess, for us in our line of work is that we really can't do public events. And that's one of the ways that we really reach out and feel like we communicate best with the community is when we're out at health fairs and different events. We can really talk to community members and convey our message of prevention.
We talked some about the board of directors that we have during our first chat in episode 1. But and I just talked to our great secretary, Maci Dover, but as executive director, you rely on the board so heavily. And in fact, it's really why we're named the Coalition, isn't it? For those that really don't know the nuances of it.
Yeah, for sure. And our tagline is coming together for a better community. That's what we were founded on, is just inherently the definition of the word coalition is, bringing a group of diverse people together to unifying under one problem that they want to solve. And our biggest voice that we can have on a regular basis, that is our board members. And we rely heavily on them to be that voice for their community or whatever sector they represent. So, right now that's one of the things that we're looking at since it's the summer. Our board year runs from September 1 to August 31. So we're looking right now at, who's going to be rolling off the board, because our board members don't serve lifetime appointments. They do get to roll off eventually, even though sometimes we're sad to see them go. So we're looking at, making sure that we have all of those sectors represented and all of those voices can be around the table when we're discussing issues that face our community, especially in the world of prevention.
And you brought this up recently. I think we were on a Zoom call, but more than once, even when the pre-pandemic world at a state meeting, I know people are amazed at the involvement of the board and kind of asking you for tips. Hey, how do we do that in our community across Texas? But is that secret sauce really the fact that we've been around part of the community for so long, and then Janet Taylor before you did such a great job, because we're a 30-year organization? Is that a lot of it there?
Yeah, I think that's a big deal. We have that name recognition, and of course our drug-free AllStar program that really is a way that people know us and they trust us because their kids have gone through it, or they've had family members and they know the organization that we are. So yeah, I think the history, and I think just the good work that we've been connected to over so many years. Being founded in 1988, that was way back in the day, and the heyday of the Just Say No era. And, we've shifted and we've changed since then. But I think the constant is that people know in the community that we're always going to be there to protect our kids from substance abuse issues. And we're going to be the ones that hopefully are speaking out and leading the way to help community members come together.
And speaking of our great Drug-Free All-Star program, Abby doesn't know it yet, but she's going to be on a podcast sometime soon. I don't know if she's reluctant or not, but she's awesome at what she does.
Great.
Yeah, she'll do amazing. But during the shutdown, we were able to safely do our Drug-Free All-Star interviews and have that process for the 2021 school year that's coming up. But from your end, and I guess just our whole organization, describe that process and what you and Abby and all of us have to consider getting it down to the final chosen all-stars that not only represent, I heard this 100 times in the interviews I said in, they represent their school, they represent the community, they represent us as an organization, but it's really a big deal that we take very seriously.
It is, and it's something that we have to convey that seriousness because, kids nowadays, they're just like adults are sometimes trying to pad their resume and, have a nice little list of accomplishments and clubs that they've joined so that the colleges, they'll stand out among their peers. And although the Drug-Free All-Star program is certainly one that looks good on a college, application, it's something that we have to be very clear to people and to our students that when they're applying for this isn't just a bullet or a line on your college application or your resume. This is something that you have to really believe in and you have to be passionate about because when it comes to your peers, they'll call you on it. And we certainly have experienced that as an organization. We're sending these youth out into the community to be our voices and to be role models. And if we have kids in our program that aren't making good choices, or they're just, maybe they're hanging around people that don't make good choices, then ultimately that diminishes the effect that our organization can have in the community. So we have to be real careful and really kind of hammer these kids in the interviews. And sometimes we do multiple interviews and they have to have references. And we have to really make it clear to them that yes, they're going to be, that they want to be drug-free, but just because they want to be, that doesn't mean that that's how it happens. They have to commit to it. They have to be passionate about it. And they have to make hard choices their senior year to say no and not go to a party where there might be underage drinking or say, sorry, I can't hang out with these friends that I always have hung out with in the past. That's hard. That's a big ask of these kids.
And I think it's fair to say right now, between 50 and 60, we'll have between the 6 school districts, and I guess we have some homeschool as well in the county.
Yeah. We have we have applicants that will be accepted this year from every high school in the county, including our charter school, and we have a homeschool applicant. So it's great to have that representation. We do want to make sure that our county is well represented, and just based on the interviews that we've had and the applications that we had, I can tell that we're going to have a great group of kids. This year may look a little different than years past and what All-Stars in the past were able to do. But, I think our staff, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, our staff and Abby, we're committed to making sure that these All-Stars have the best experience possible. And we really rely on them to be our voice. So we'll make sure that we give them opportunities to be able to do that.
Yeah, because we learn so much from them too. It's amazing. This could be a whole other podcast episode, but we learn so much and they inspire us too. I think that's why we're so fulfilled doing what we do. And a big picture of things. But Sharon mentioned that some of it might change. End of August, that's one of my highlights, to get to do some tobacco education. Then we have other groups. ADAC comes in and we educate them on some of the different substances. And Sharon, I don't think you mind me saying this, but Sharon gives her, I don't know if it's mama hen speech. What do you call it?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's part mom, but part just, being the boss.
Yeah.
Whatever they want to look at me like. But, being a mom of two teenagers, I think I probably come off sounding like a mom.
Yeah. It's serious, though. They get the message, certainly, in a great way. But, okay, Bonnie has our Project Quit classes up and going for smoking cessation. That include tobacco cessation, I should say. They include smoking, spit tobacco, and e-cigarettes. But we had a big media push, big social media push. But how excited are you about that gaining some momentum? Because it's not just this month, but we hope to kind of run this for on and on and on and keep going.
Yeah, super excited. We really planned this and we're ready to roll this out. As here we are, been in quarantine, and so many things have been shut down, and we really didn't know if people were going to show up, but they have. And Bonnie's doing an amazing job with that class. And we've got participants that are excited and eager to quit, whatever nicotine. I think everybody in this current class are smokers. They want to be able to quit. But we know that nicotine addiction is just, man, it is tough. And hearing these participants' stories, it's heartbreaking. So many of them started early, before the age of, 14, and that nicotine just hooks them and they become addicted for life. And they're working through that process right now. And Bonnie's walking right alongside with them. And we're trying to give them the resources to be able to put down the cigarettes and walk away from it. But yeah, we're super excited about that. And we hope to be able to continue to have these virtual classes. I think that's probably been the biggest surprise out of this virtual class, is that the connections were made right at the very first meeting. Mm-hmm. And you wouldn't think that would be possible, doing it virtually, but connections were made, and these participants are already relying on each other for motivation and support. And that's what we want to continue.
Yeah, and I was really hopeful after talking to some of the people. I was calling them and reminding them and saying, hey, you still interested? Can we get you signed up? And said, no, I'm not much of the technology, but I want to do it when we get in-person classes. So there are a lot of people, I think, we're just touching the tip of the iceberg, so to speak, right now.
Yeah, sure, for sure.
And speaking of, but our annual tobacco prevention trip will be with between 20 to 30 students to the Say What conference was canceled because of this pesky pandemic. But we were excited to have 25 that had still signed up for the virtual Say What Summit. For those that don't remember, students, adults, and youth working hard against tobacco. And I can't wait for this, because the Say What folks at the state level always do a tremendous job. And I think we've got a lot of buy-in. Again, not all the drug-free all-stars, but this is really a different pool of youngsters. Youngsters, that's very condescending. The students that we have signed up for the virtual Say What.
Yeah, we're excited to have several of the younger students to be signed up for this. And we've had the partnership with Say What for so many years. They're another organization like us that have a long history of trustworthiness and dedication to the cause. And so that partnership has been great. And I can only imagine having to shift a 4-day in-person conference to a virtual 2-day platform, and not even 2 full days. But I have full faith that they're going to do a bang-up job, because they always do. And I do have a little bit of an insider information in that my oldest is one of the consultants that still touches base with Say What and helps them with some of their planning. And he does tell me that it is going to be a great conference this weekend. So we're excited about it.
Yeah, can't wait. That's always our highlight. And with obvious reasons, it was just impossible at the time they canceled. And still now that they made the right call in canceling that and making it virtual. But all right, we're up against our time, but I guess we have all the time in the world. It's a podcast. But any big things on the horizon as I kind of shift my direction to the fall, which again, we're kind of shrugging our shoulders here. What do we do when we don't know the full? It looks like most of the schools are going to go back with maybe a small delay at worst, but our school year, our year is centered around the school year, right? What we think about the next couple months, I guess, of planning.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of this hurry up and wait thing where, like you said, shrugging your shoulders, nobody really knows what's going to happen, but we're remaining flexible and open, hoping that we will still be able to get into the schools to deliver our prevention message. If we're not able to go physically into the schools, then we just want to make sure that teachers and administrators know that we are open and available to doing virtual or recorded sessions or whatever we can do to fit into the nooks and crannies of their day, so that we're not bothering them, but we're able to come alongside them and support them and really get that message out to kids of prevention. All these substances that may be pulling their attention away from school and from their regular life. We want to be there, being that voice saying, keep making the right choices.
Hey, thank you, Sharon. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you. Again, we're super excited about our podcast. We feel almost famous, right?
And the numbers prove it. We got a lot of folks tuning in from in and around. We had a lot of California. There was some, I don't think I told you this, but Alaska, there's a lot of Kentucky. I was like, okay, this is pretty neat. I'm used to the kind of terrestrial radio just inside this little area, but loving the podcast.
Come all. We'll take any listeners that we can get to hear our message of prevention.
Thank you much. Talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks.
That's Executive Director Sharon Kruk here at the Coalition. And once again, thank you for tuning in to another edition of the Coalition 936 podcast, coming together for a better community. Hey, that's just what she said. But a huge help to us is please subscribe to that podcast. We're on Apple, Spotify, Podbean, among a few others. But we're also dipping our toes into the YouTube waters. So if you want to throw us a bone, we'll give you that subscribe back, not a follow back, but a subscribe back if you support our page on YouTube. I guess if you're another group. But one other big reminder, our Project Quit classes that we talked about with Bonnie. But if you know someone that has said they want to quit smoking, Coalition here for you. But you can go to angelinacoalition.org, has a Project Quit link. And there you can sign up for those classes. Have a great rest of this day. God bless. And we'll talk to you next time here on the Coalition Podcast.